Hello, and welcome to the Humans of Growth podcast, where we talk about the stories and strategies behind business growth and development. I'm your host, Ali Hathcock, and today's episode is sponsored by Parison Network, the new way for businesses to find the perfect fit marketing agency. If you're looking for marketing support and don't know where to turn, Parison Network will run a free agency search for you on your company's behalf. You can go to parisonnetwork.com for more information. And today's guest is Ray Huang, who is the Senior Director of Marketing at Canopy Connect. Canopy is a software that allows companies to collect and verify customers' insurance information, all with the click of a button. Ray, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Ali.
So, Ray, I introduced the professional side of you, but in a sentence or two, who are you as a person?
Good question. I've always identified myself as a quote unquote wingman. So I'm just, making my way through the universe, trying to help who I can, companies that I can, people that I can, like however they need to get to the next step and help them kind of progress. And if that helps me along the way, great, because I find a ton of enrichment in that. But got a couple of kids and married and living out here in Phoenix, Arizona.
Ooh, is it hot out there right now?
It is currently 101 degrees. We'll be reaching 111 at 3 o'clock. So
Okay.
yes, it's hot.
I'll stop complaining about my 95 degrees. Okay, point duly noted. So what is something that people would not expect about you?
I've been otherwise a pretty open book. I think people that don't know me think I'm a lot more kind of outgoing and friendly than maybe I don't say I'm not friendly, but I'm more of an introvert and like to do my kind of closed room thinking. I love remote work and all that stuff. But then sometimes when I'm out and about and I'm doing podcasts, people are like, "Oh, you're all over LinkedIn and you're talking about this and that and you're sharing everything." I'm like, "Yeah, that's a part of me." But normally I'm a little bit more reserved and I don't know, just some people that's surprising to, and other people they go, "Yeah, no, that's right."
Oh, I as an introvert, I appreciate that. It's like I will hide behind my desk with typing with my hoodie on, no meetings, and it's great.
Yeah.
So what brought you to Canopy?
Yeah, so they reached out to me. They were at the time a 12-person company and looking for a marketing lead. And that's, I specialize in working in startups, and it was just a really good fit. I had a really good conversation with at the time, the head of sales and with the CEO, and what their story was and what their vision was for the company. And for me, one of the big criteria is look, software. I do like startup software as a sales, software as a service, which is really broad and can go everything from cybersecurity and, programming and all that stuff to design. So the gamut is pretty huge. For me, it was, hey, here's a problem that I realize and I can see. I've not experienced the actual problem, but I see that as a problem. It's not one of those kind of, there's some companies you sort of yeah, I guess you're solving a problem, but is it really a problem or are we creating a problem? So this one was I could see this being a problem for a good sized market, collecting insurance information, verifying insurance information. There's sort of a bit of a proven blueprint with what some other companies have done in other industries. And, so for me, it was coming in saying, hey, here's a problem that needs to be solved, that here's a software that doesn't seem like there's many alternatives to it. Let's go. And I was also on this category creation kick, and I was like, oh, this seems like something I can kind of sink my teeth into and get into.
Interesting. I think you kind of tapped into something that's I've seen a lot in the SaaS space is the idea of like, is the problem actually there, or are we having to create the problem in order to
Right.
get clients? What
Right.
have you seen along those lines?
Yeah. So there's in the insurance industry, and I would say it's specifically like insurance agency tech, which is a little bit like a subset of insurtech generally. Like, what are the problems that need to be solved for insurance agencies? There's a couple of types of companies. There's some of these like tech venture-backed companies that kind of spun off of a carrier or something and is trying to solve a problem, but at in a certain way. Everyone's kind of got their own angle to it. Then there's this other angle of like, I'm an insurance agent and I'm trying to solve my own problem, and I built a tech that solves my problem, and I realized other people could use it. So like, I'm pivoting and I'm going to go try to build that out. And they don't really have the experience of like a true startup tech company.
Yep.
They've got a homegrown solution, and it's got, and I think there's a bit of their view of it is not as expansive and as like, I don't know. They're not in like Silicon Valley startup mode where they're like, we're looking to scale 3x, 3x, 3x so that like we'll get there. They're like, hey, we're growing 25% year over year, and that's great. And for some businesses that is great. But other companies, it's no, you didn't double or triple this year. Like,
Yep.
What are you doing?
Right. And it's interesting because especially in startup spaces, you expect like high growth most of the time.
Yep.
But that seems to be kind of relegated to the SaaS and tech space to some degree. Like you don't see service-based businesses necessarily try to 3x revenue every single year.
Right. Right.
Yep, but interesting to note, and something I've always been like thinking about in the back of my head of like, what are we expecting from startups, especially when they just solve their own problem and they figure out how can I monetize this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and to your other point of like, yeah, sometimes there's not really a problem to solve, and like we've got tech, we've got this idea, and we had to pivot, and now we're trying to fit our solution into something else. And I see some of that working as, in the works as well. You see it across all sorts of companies. And I don't find, like, sometimes you do find a niche. Sometimes you're like, well, this uncovered this other opportunity that this tech solves. But oftentimes it's kind of an uphill battle because you're like, you don't have this compelling thing, or you're just making something slightly more efficient. That's usually not good enough, right? Marginal, making something 5% better is not a compelling
not compelling enough. Yeah, and that's the interesting thing is like as I've seen all these AI tools come out, it's like, okay, you're just making GPT and putting a wrapper on it, and it's 5%, 10% better than let me go write a fancy prompt.
Yeah.
And there's going like AI is growing, but there's going to be a collapse, I think, at some point when we realize, hey, this is how you write a prompt. All these other AI tools become defunct to some degree. Right. So something you had mentioned earlier was the conference. The difference between the first conference that you went to at Canopy Connect versus like the second, where it's a little bit night and day difference. I would love for you to share kind of more about, dive into that.
Yeah. So one of the core tenets that when I came into Canopy Connect, I said, this is not we do it a little bit better than the other guy. Like, this is a whole branding awareness effort. We're a new company in an industry that's really fragmented tech stack wise. Mm-hmm. Like, we need to kind of break through the noise. We need to get our name out there. We need to just get recognized. That's more important than the short term. Like, we need to generate leads and get new customers. Like, those will come. Yep. But just, it's kind of always the marketer's dilemma where it's like branding, like do we focus on branding and awareness, top of funnel, or do we go, chase MQLs and SQLs and opportunities? And I was fortunately in a good position where our CEO trusted me to say, like, what do you need? Our CEO is like the technical guy. So he's like, marketing is your thing. Like, what should we do? So I put together a plan. It was more around branding and awareness. And we obviously need to convey our importance and our selling point and the problem and all that stuff. So did a big focus on that. And Facebook ads, and we can get into all the tactics, but what was the salient, like, this is working sort of moment? Yeah. It takes a while. Like, this doesn't happen overnight. You don't throw up an ad and all of a sudden everyone knows you. So we went to a conference, one October, the first year I was here. I was about maybe 5 months into the job. Had a booth. My general pitch to everyone was like, hey, have you heard about Canopy Connect? And the response was usually, no, no idea. No, do you know what we do? No. So then I have to go through the whole spiel, and people are like, wow, that's interesting. That's compelling. And I could see myself just in that conference having just like, hey, I've just said this 100 times. Like, how it goes. Your pitch, like, you start like tweaking the pitch a little bit, and that helped me like crystallize our messaging, like what's resonating, what's not resonating, what are the actual pain points that I'm hearing. And then over the next year, we went pretty heavy on advertising. Yes, we did some demand generation, but a lot of it was problem awareness, these things that I was hearing at this conference and subsequently through conversations and interviews and things like that. To the point that I think we saturated the market. We did a really good job of just getting our message out there with the right groups. We did co-branded webinars and all sorts of things. So I went to that exact same conference a year later, and the conversation was very different. Have you heard about Canopy Connect? The answer is, yeah, I've seen you guys around. Yes, you guys do that insurance data collection thing, right? Not perfect. Yep. And I don't expect it to be, but you know our name, you've seen our logo, it's enough that you pause and take an extra look. You come off, when you go to a trade show, you got the people in the aisles that are like standing a little bit of ways and they're trying to read your booth and they don't want to talk to you. And then if you do ask them, like, have you heard of us? You know what we do? And they're like trying to like take your messaging and be like, well, what do they actually do? Right. Yeah. And that whole conversation was totally different because people were like, yes, I know you guys. That seemed like a fun ad. We leaned pretty heavily into like memes and stuff like that, which is insurance ads. People love seeing like disasters and yep. Cars on fire, like those types of ads worked really well. But they came to us, yeah, I've seen your ads, I've seen your thing, like I've seen you talking, I've seen you on a webinar. So the awareness was through the roof, just in that 1 year difference, which I think in branding terms, like that's a pretty short turnaround, especially for a company that had I won't say near zero, like we had relatively low newcomer awareness. So
that's incredible. So how did you go about getting buy-in from C-suite of, hey, we need to work on brand awareness, which is very much like the slow burn, and webinars, which are educational, also a slow burn, compared to let's go run outbound and just get meetings and get sales?
Yeah.
How'd you make that switch in their brain?
Again, part of it was I had a leadership group that, or our CEO primarily, that was like, you tell me what to do, which is very refreshing. I've worked for a lot of CEOs that are sales oriented or biz dev oriented. And, I can give a pitch and everything gets second guess. This was a little bit of, I'm putting my faith in you, Ray. Like, don't mess it up. So that part was surprisingly easier, and super refreshing. And maybe one of the few times in my career where I haven't had to go like, okay, well, let me go try to figure out what an ROI of doing a display ad that 7 people are going to click on, right? And so it was like, hey, we're going to iterate through this. We will be generating leads as we go, but we still will need to do an outbound motion with our sales team. And I said, these are sales activities, these are marketing activities. There is going to be an overlap because it's all part of this spectrum. And we'll support where we can with the certain verticals and certain target customers. We'll provide you those resources, but also give us the room to put out good content and do advertising that is not going to be super efficient. Like I still have to be responsible. I have to be a good steward of our money and our budget, because that is like we were at that time still in seed stage. So I couldn't just burn through cash. We didn't have that kind of backing, but I had enough to have a little bit of latitude. Doing things like conferences, like those are expensive endeavors, both in time, effort, and people, to get that stuff done. So doing some conferences, that for me, helped get me a faster feedback loop, talking to prospects and customers, like I'd mentioned, and then just having the latitude to do some of the ads that I wanted to run, because we weren't going to get it off the bat organically. I'm 3 years in and I'm still struggling to get like, hey, let's just get organic traffic from Facebook.
Oh, 100%.
Good luck, right? Like if we're going to post something on our or LinkedIn company page, hey, great, you got, 18 views and 17 of them were your own company. Like that stuff happens. Every once in a while you'll get something and you're like, great, 1,000 views. Still relatively, not a needle mover.
And that's right. What I've seen for B2B, Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn, like the organic is just hard. It's so much harder than what it used to be 10, 15 years ago. And it's easy, like for me to look back and be like, okay, why is my company not XYZ as far as somebody else? It's like, well, they had a 5-year head start when the internet was a lot easier back then.
Insurance agents, what I found was they're open and they're able to be found. They want to be found on Facebook. So they were relatively easier to target over there. And compared to LinkedIn, just from a cost per conversion, cost per click, all of those was 10x less expensive to do on Facebook, to the point where I basically just didn't do it. I stopped doing LinkedIn because I was like, well, if I can get 10x more efficient on Facebook and still get quality leads, like there was not a huge degradation in the quality of the lead. It's still the target insurance agency owner that I was going for. And I started getting more sophisticated with other tools to help me target better, so I can do more like list targeting and things like that versus just like job title and that sort of targeting.
I love that. You mentioned, so with Facebook, were you also running Instagram, or are you sticking solely to Facebook?
I started out just doing Facebook, and maybe it was my own like mental block that people aren't necessarily converting on Instagram. But we've since expanded into it. I think earlier on it was like, hey, this is working. Let's just kind of stay in there, because again, I was working with limited daily budget until I'm like, okay, I can know consistently, I can spend this much. I'm getting this many clicks to our content, and a portion of those are booking demos and things with us, which just for unit economics, we needed to make sure we were still doing good. We're still at least like up to par on some semblance of a benchmark. What's one of the challenges with startups is like, I don't know what our benchmarks are. Like until you do it enough, like you can look up benchmarks for the tech industry, but then you're dealing with companies that are perfectly willing to burn through cash and, have a $1,500 cost per lead because they're selling a $50,000 product, right?
Right.
Whereas I can't in good conscience spend more than $400. That feels expensive to me on, generating a lead, but like I could stretch that and I can make that work if you look at like, an annualized value, whatever math you're going to choose to use, with your market. Like you have to find what's tolerable, what's your upper limits. And obviously we want to try to drive that down as much as we can, but still kind of depending on your campaign's goals, I guess.
Yeah, so you had mentioned starting with targeting based upon like job title, and then you mentioned lists, which piqued my interest. Would love to hear kind of more about that.
Yeah, so we've worked with different conferences, and like when before you go to a conference, sometimes you'll get an attendee list, sometimes you won't. Again, lists and email addresses these days are easy to find. You can't spam them, but you can do things with them. So we're able to get a list of 40,000. I will not say which agency, but like, or what carrier, but like, 40,000 people from that sell insurance from one particular carrier. We can put those into a try to match them. And they may not match based on their company domain because that's not what they signed up on Facebook for.
Yep.
But you can. So we used we used a platform called Metadata.
Okay.
And they have a thing where you can upload business emails, and then they'll go find their mapping on Facebook. Like even if they don't use their business email on Facebook, can match them and we can target them. That's a bigger platform cost, but once we kind of proved it out that like Facebook is efficient,
yep.
It was definitely a worthwhile sort of investment to do that because now we can run these targeted campaigns that says,
right.
Gecko, Mayhem, Red Shirt Guy, like whatever, more targeted campaign we could do. Our creative can be different when you can be more targeted,
right.
Obviously. So
yeah, and that's what I was curious is because it's easy to go buy lists off the internet, but 9 times out of 10 it's their business email that they're not signing up with Facebook. So it's cool that you were able to find like the tool that goes from I have this massive list of however big, however small. Now let's go retarget those people with Facebook ads in a way that makes sense. And it doesn't also rely on like website retargeting either.
Yeah, I mean, from like a technical standpoint, website retargeting is not dead, but very difficult to do because you need a minimum of 1,000 matching visitors.
Yep.
And you're like, well, I don't have early days. I don't have that many
right.
that I want to retarget when you throw in all your exclusions. So it's hard to do in any like meaningful way. You could do it to an extent, and we do, but how effective is it these days?
Yeah,
probably not super effective.
Especially like I think it's more effective like on the B2C side, where you're targeting like solopreneurs. But when you're doing more to some degree account-based marketing, you're B2B, you have a high-priced item. The retargeting is like, okay, well, 10 clicks to my website, if one converts, or 100 clicks to my website, one converts, we're now set for the next 6 months. Retargeting just doesn't work the same way.
Yeah. And often, depending on the industry, job title targeting, or sorry, not job title, but job like category targeting is often too broad, right? If anyone's previous job, I was, dealing in finance and tech, and if you're reaching out to a bank, you want to hit, whatever big major bank, they've got like 1,000 VPs. Every branch manager is a VP. And if you're trying to hit like a certain subset in there and your settings are like, well, they can be a manager or a director or an executive, like you go to like director and you're like, okay, now I've got 8,000 people I'm trying to reach, and like that's not really so targeted. So it's tough to get to dial that in again, depending on the company profile that you're trying to hit and how narrow you can get it. And it's one of those settings where you're like, well, I can hit like 15 people or I can hit 4,000 people at one company, and I don't want to do that, you know.
And no in between for the most.
And no in between, right.
Because that's I'm about to start running ads for myself, and it's like, okay, well, I only want to work with companies of XYZ size. How are we doing company size targeting when that's not an option within Facebook, Instagram?
Right.
So something that was kind of unique about you guys is you do serve more than just insurance, correct?
Yes.
So you have insurance agencies, lenders, auto dealers, mortgage, everything in between. Anybody who needs to show proof of insurance too. How do you go when you have like that many verticals? How do you go about brand awareness, targeting, messaging without kind of not becoming Walmart, but not being like, we serve anybody and everybody sort of situation?
Yeah. That was when I came in. That was a big challenge because I knew that we wanted to go after these other verticals.
Yep.
There's a valid use case in it. Maybe not fully proven out yet in certain verticals.
Okay.
This is sort of the flip side. We're like, our product was built originally as a solution for insurance agents.
Yep.
And now we've got the tech. What else can we do with it? Like we were mentioning earlier in the show, right? Like we've got the tech. Like, what else can we do with it?
Right.
So who else needs to verify or check or get insurance information from a carrier? So we go, okay, banks do, auto dealers do, and all that stuff. But when I joined, 90% of our business, 90% of the people coming to our website are going to be insurance agents. So my gut instinct was like, well, let's just make the homepage of a company like this with multiple verticals.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the marketer's nightmare because I have to be so generic, but I also need to compel you to like go to the solutions page, right? And how to especially if the use case is very different, right? Some companies have like, this is the use case and it works in all these verticals.
Yep.
But ours was like, the use case is different for insurance versus verifying it for the purposes of underwriting a loan versus, making sure I can safely release a car off the dealership lot. Like those are very different use cases, and like the depth of data that's required is different for each one. Mm-hmm. Car dealership, I just need to check a box and feel safe. The bank, I don't want to be on the hook or not be on the hook if something goes wrong with your house.
Right.
Right. That's a big deal. And the insurance agents, like, this is an operational efficiency workflow solution.
Yep.
So the website was a nightmare. So I think when I first came, I said, I didn't want to be the guy, you always hear a new marketing lead is hired. Let's rebrand. Let's do a new website.
Yeah.
Right. So I said, and I know what a big undertaking that is. So I said, we're going to rejigger the website, change up the nav, clean it up. We're not going through rebranding just yet. I want to, but, first things first, let's just like get the messaging a little bit tighter and all that stuff. So I did end up kind of primary call to action was insurance agents. I know 80-90% of the people coming, that's who I want to talk to. Mm-hmm. And if I can actually, so it's like second tier, there's a little banner that says, hey, if you do these things, I don't remember what my exact messaging was, but we were talking more like API and technical stuff. It's just like, if you're a technical person, you'd see that and be like, oh, that's where I go. I get it. And we didn't have all these like vertical solution pages at that time just yet.
Okay.
Fast forward like a year and change, then we did finally go through a rebrand, built out a new website, and then we said, okay, let's go solutions pages for every vertical that we want to get into, that we are already in. And we created a big module, still like secondary to the hero, that was like, we've got solutions for this, and this, right? And we made it very clear, like, go find your thing, because our tagline at the company level is still around verifying insurance, but it was kind of genericified. So not super compelling. And if we're doing any marketing into any other vertical or any insurance vertical, like, we send them to the page that they should be on, where we can now we can talk your language, and we can use the correct industry's vernacular and tone and make those little adjustments. We still want to be ourselves, but we need to read the room and make those adjustments. So
I love it. Has there been any vertical that's been harder than the others?
Yeah, I think when you get into a new vertical and you don't have like the case studies and the stories, and you can't force a case study too early, otherwise it doesn't, when you do that, we put out like some stories that are like, this is why this car dealership decided to purchase Canopy Connect. Like, that's useful, like, that's why, but like, it's not a proving point. It's just saying,
right,
and you kind of have to do that in the early stages of getting into, I think it's like, whatever tiniest proof point I can get, like, let's get that, because that's better than something generic. But also we want it to be true. We don't want to be like making up lies and making up stats, because we do kind of hold ourselves to a certain level of integrity. Again, we deal with data that is personal and sensitive. So like, we need to be upstanding, citizens in our business and how we operate. And that becomes like, that's a whole other like company values and things like that are important. And we do try to make sure we live by them, but that's a bigger
mm-hmm. That's a
bigger thing.
That's a bigger conversation.
Yes.
Especially in marketing. Out of all the campaigns that you've run across channels, across platforms, in person, online, what's been your personal favorite, regardless of the data?
I mean, the one we have the most fun with is there's this guy on Instagram. I don't even know what's the guy. It's insurance agent memes, and we did a little mini advertising partnership with him. So every week we contribute a meme that is adjacently related to what we do, and so it's not an ad. Like, we're contributing to the memeness of the world, and those are always like the fun. Some weeks are better than others, because you can't always go back to the classics, because we have to be like fresh and new, but then fresh and new is like, not everyone got the reference, right? I do a post about the, Superman or Fantastic Four, one of those summer movie blockbusters. Like, we can try to do something around that, and like, but only a handful of people watched those, no matter how big it is. It's not as good as, and what we found that works best is like these old, like, our target audience for insurance agents is probably like a 40-year-old 40-something male. So like, the era of movies that were hot then was like the Will Ferrell kind of stuff, the Anchormans, the Office, that
the good stuff,
earlier 2000s classics now, which, they were just the shows that we watched, but that's the stuff that's like in our vernacular. You can go deep in some like Office episodes and pull out a meme or anything, and people get it. Be like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that, and then they can make kind of a positive association, and those are fun to do. They, again, this is more of a branding effort than trying to get them to come over. We put a little pitch in, it is an ad. We do want to see people want to click through it and want to view it and see that, but it's not primary, but people know like, oh yeah, these guys like to have fun, and Yeah. So I like that one. That's a very straightforward ad campaign, but we also try to get creative, like events that we go to. We try to be creative about what swag we give. I've largely been a believer, like, we don't want to give away junk.
Yep.
But one day we were brainstorming and someone said, well, what about a chia pet? And we're like, so tapping into knowing, like, nostalgia works.
Okay.
Chia pets are this very, like, 80s, 90s
That's
thing. So I went out and I got a company to custom design some chia pets with our logo on it. Those were a big hit, but those are also big and heavy to ship, which were, so we went through those, but they were a big attention getters. But we always like to try to have something fun.
I love that, because you see, anytime you go to a trade show conference, you get a ton of swag and it gets shoved in a drawer somewhere, and then a year later it gets thrown away.
Yeah.
So that hits your demographic so well.
Yeah.
In a way that is fun and unique and actually stands out above everybody else.
Yeah. Because, if you look around, if you go to a conference, like, half the vendors, you'll find, like, a very similar thing, right? Yeti water bottle or coffee mugs. Like, those are cool and I like them, but they're not, they don't stand out. And at the end of the day, like, it's probably going to, in my case, it's going to get covered in stickers and who knows? Still have it. It's still at my desk. It probably still makes an impact for the company I got it from. But, you want something that's fun and memorable. And, we tend to have stuff that other vendors come and, they're always like, oh, can I trade you for that? Can I get that? Like, I want that too. So we try to do that, but then I'm trying to be a little more space conscious, because one of the big arguments is like, well, I came to this conference and I've got a carry-on bag. I don't have room for that thing.
Right.
I love it, but I don't have room for it. And I don't want to ship them. So that's the other startup thing, is like, my garage is also the warehouse sometimes. So sooner I can get that cleared out.
It's like, and that's the problem with remote work. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how big your company is. If it's 10 people, if it's 1,000, if there's no physical office anymore, the marketing director or the sales director is getting all the swag stuck in their garage.
Yeah.
Like, it is inevitable. It is 100% inevitable. So you were the first marketer at Canopy Connect. How has the team grown and developed since then?
Yeah. After about a year and a half of just kind of rocking things solo, and like, I've been at startups long enough that I can dabble and do a lot of things enough to get by and to be dangerous.
Yep.
But I hired a content marketing manager after about a year and a half. Just knowing that, hey, we still needed top of the funnel content. I had a company I had hired that was kind of outsourced blog writing, but it was like, it still required a lot of work from me. So as much as I was like, I want to get this off my plate because I need to focus on important things, I was still spending a lot of time doing stuff where I was like, well, I might as well just be writing this, right? So then I hired a content marketing manager, and she took over writing a lot of the blog articles, managing social, doing some of the creative work, and that sort of stuff. And then about 6 months later, I hired a demand generation manager, and this guy, Nick, he is from the insurance industry, and so he kind of gets the culture of that space, and he's just kind of hardcore ad guy. So he's been taking that over, which for me, that had become, at some point, became a good chunk of my job, is just kind of managing ads and campaigns. So it's like every new hire, you're like, how many hats can I can I take off and hand off to someone else? And it's challenging because there's aspects of it that I really like. I enjoy writing. I enjoy creating content. But I hired a content manager and she's doing a great job. And I also enjoy doing the ads. And, my previous roles have all been in demand generation. So being able to say like, okay, it's time to let that part of you go. It's good. Like, I love that I have that background and I can still meaningfully provide the right guidance. But now I've handed it to a specialist that can actually do it better than I can.
Yep.
And that's kind of what you want, especially going my pathway, where it's like, I'm jack of all trades. I'm going to go hand off these to, they're not like specialists, but they're like broad specialists that can go stand up that function and more. And then most recently, just a couple weeks ago, I brought on a customer and partner marketing position manager. And again, that was like, after handing all these things off, I started doing all the events. I had the house, I had the garage space. So, but that's, you've probably run events, ton of time, ton of organization and planning and shipping and logistics and all these moving parts that honestly is not my strong suit, but like, I didn't want to hand it off to someone else yet because they were not in those functional roles. So, I brought on someone, again, customer marketing and partner marketing, and then caveat, most of our events are like these partner events, so she also gets events. Okay. So it's funny because I posted the job and people were like, well, you're really looking for a unicorn that knows software, customer. I was like, yeah, but I know the profile of who I'm looking for is someone that can take on that challenge. And I'm not like, I've seen a lot of companies that post a digital marketing job and they expect you to do everything. And that's kind of what I was doing for a long time, but it also is a bit of a ridiculous, like, it's too much. But I also know that I've worked with a ton of very talented, very versatile marketers that can do a lot of things really well. And at this point, that's what we need. And then as we get bigger and we can fill in more gaps and they can give away some of their hats and I can give away some of my hats, like, that's how we're going to kind of build our marketing organizations. Because the skills that you need, the skill set and the team skill set that you need at, solo marketer to 4 or 5 people is different than what you need when you're at a team of 10 or 30, as the team grows. But so my mindset needs to shift into being more of a leader and delegator, and kind of, how do I move some of these pieces and keep everyone coordinated and cohesive and still keep a little bit of, I'm still doing like a lot of product marketing, which for me is fun. I've done it, but it's also, I've never just done it. So it's a fun challenge and evolution, I guess, career wise, which is what we need, I think, as anyone in your career. Like, you need to progress, you need to change, you need to adapt to what's needed. So
I love it. So last question, if you had an extra $50K marketing budget to spend and you have 30 days to spend it all, where are you going to, in a sentence, like, where are you going to put it?
30 days is the challenge. But I do believe in, what do they call it? Lightning strike moments. It'll take more than 30 days to sort of plan it out, but like in the real world, but doing something where you can make a big splash at like the next big industry event and kind of just go really big and make a really big impact for, the number of people that you'll reach. So if it's at a conference, doing some kind of like conference takeover or, anything like that. I don't really know exactly what a conference takeover would technically entail. Give me 30 days to plan it.
Totally.
But that's the sort of splash, I think, that would be really, like, it would level up awareness. And then if you do it right, then there's a long tail of follow-on benefit that comes out of that awareness, those stories that come out of it. I'll be on your podcast again. I could tell you all about that one, and do what we do on podcasts, right? Chop it up, and that's another 6 months of content, something like that, right? That's how I would do it. I would go gamble it all. Basically, what I said, I'll just gamble it all on one big. I think
that's so fun, though. I think like a conference takeover would be great. So, Ray, thank you so much for joining with us today. For everyone joining us, thank you as well. If people want to connect with you further, where can they find you?
Yeah, I think the best place is on LinkedIn. You can find me at linkedin.com/in/wingman. That's my handle there. Or you can email me at ray@usecanopy.com or at ray@wingmanb2b.com. That's kind of my consulting arm. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining, and we will catch you on the next episode of Humans of Growth.
All right. Thanks, Allie.